sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome back for another episode of My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones. I'm a comedian, and my sister's a therapist.
Yes, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist.
On this podcast, it's two sisters with the same history of family trauma and different views on life. And we're talking about pop culture stuff, mental health stuff. You know, we change roles a little bit. I'm not always funny and she's not always helpful. It's great. So this week is Laura's topic. So Laura, what are we talking about this week?
This week, we're going to talk about passport bros. Have you heard of passport bros?
My familiarity with this topic comes from Laura's obsession with a television show called 90 Day Fiancé, right?
Yes. Also, AKA Trolls and Dolls.
So Laura calls it Trolls and Dolls because the show is typically American men, you know, have not found themselves in happy relationships, happy marriages, and they are courting a bride. So the men tend to be a little older, a little less attractive, and they are wooing or being matched with the youngest, hottest women in their whole village, right? In their representative country. So tell me how you started watching the show.
I love dating shows, so I think it started there. I extra love shows that give me the creeps and make me able to psychologically analyze people.
That scans. I do not watch a lot of reality television. I have been obsessed with this show, So You Think You Can Dance.
Yeah.
But apart from that, have not watched a great deal of reality television because I don't like people. And I don't.
You haven't ventured out.
People. I haven't ventured out.
It's not about liking people. I think it's more about being curious about people. Yeah. So passport bros, let me share with you the definition. They are men who have chosen to seek out foreign women for relationships. They believe that Western women have been influenced by cultural and societal pressures to behave in a certain way, and that by seeking out foreign women, they can find a more authentic, fulfilling, harmonious relationship, restoring the natural balance between the masculine and feminine and avoiding the wickedness of Western women.
You know, there's a lot of annoying things about that definition. And one of them is like, yeah, you get guys, especially a lot of guys in the tech sector who like Asian women, but they think they like Asian American women.
No.
But what they like is women, you know, directly imported because women who have grown up in America have really different expectations of a partner. And so on 90 Day Fiancé, what you have is women who have their whole life plan rests on a man. And that's exactly where the men like to have it.
Exactly. But I think it's, the thing that I have come to understand about it is that it's really about an exchange. And it's an exchange of monetary resource for youth and beauty and compliance. I think that's ultimately the exchange. And a lot of times that does backfire. I'll give you an example. There's a Russian lady named Anfisa from Moscow, and George, he is a young, unattractive man who found his wealth in selling weed, like legalized weed. I think he owned a dispensary. He had this conversation with her. So you're basically saying that you're dating me because I can buy you things. That's not right. I don't think that's love. Anfisa, I don't understand what's wrong about it. If I was ugly and fat, would you be dating me? I am beautiful and I like nice things and I expect you to pay for that.
You know, we're in a really strange moment between men and women where up until, 40 years ago, an American woman had to marry a man to have any kind of life, to have loans approved, to own housing, purchase property, to have credit. And everybody kind of knew that it was an exchange.
Right.
And yes, you might love the person.
Right.
But most marriages are some kind of exchange, even if you're just as a woman exchanging your freedom.
Right.
Two people are losing their freedom, but they're gaining partnership. There is some sort of exchange. The guys who have their antenna up for women who are attracted to money, but then are very taken aback by well, you're only talking to me because I have money. That's the saddest, funniest thing of all. Yeah, dude.
It's bizarre. I'm like, sir, where have you been? Have you looked in the mirror? Have you seen this woman? Do you honestly think if you were just some, average earner that she'd be
And he knows what the exchange is because he has measured his value in the American local market, right? And he has found it wanting. So he has sought after this uneven exchange. You know, I find that there's nothing that tells you what your market value is more than being on the dating apps. You'll find out right away.
Absolutely.
Right away.
It only takes about a day.
Yeah. You know, very humbling. I think humbling for almost anyone.
I think so too. But, you know, Hugh Hefner, God bless him. I heard him in an interview once where the interviewer was saying, well, you know, because you're a crusty, nasty old man, that these young, hot women are just dating you for money, right? And he said, of course I know that, but I like to think that part of what they're attracted to is the cachet sort of attached to me. He was like, you know, I'm successful. I'm, you know, a go-getter and all those things. So he's like, I like to think that those are also qualities that they're seeing.
Well, I mean, and like probably not the go-getter, but yeah, for that situation, it was it was living in the house, like having celebrities over. And like we hear again and again from these women that the lifestyle was actually not that good. It was the possibility of it being good. Like, you can help me with my career of being a model. You can help me with my career of being an actress. Like, there's an exchange of services. I was just in Istanbul, and I know you're thinking, hey, how does this relate? It might. I was talking to a Turkish guy. We were in a car and we drove past a building and I said, oh, what's that? And he said, oh, that's the last sultan's palace. That's the last palace of a sultan in Istanbul. And he said, you know, it's interesting because we've been talking a little bit about men and women. And he was like, yeah, the Sultan, they used to always marry a woman of the court, like a noble woman. But then it was trouble because one, sometimes she conflicted with him, right? She didn't want the same thing he wanted.
Can't have that.
And two, sometimes a military conflict, that woman would get kidnapped and he would have to ransom her back.
Yeah.
And
that can start to get expensive.
Start to get spendy. Well, and it's, you know, sometimes in movies you hear people say like, I can't form attachments because that person is always going to be at risk. And in here I'm thinking of the television show Supernatural, but
as you do. But he said, you know, so then the Sultans just started marrying slaves. And I said, okay. And he was like, so if she got kidnapped, you know, she was just a slave. NBD. And, you know, and her family wasn't demanding her return, not like these like rich people. And I was like, you know, I'm a Pollyanna in many ways. I'm like, well, but he still loved her. Like, that's still his wife. Like, that's a partner. And the guy was just like, but she was a slave, though. Well, and again, I feel you're missing the subtext here. She was a slave.
She was a slave. She's not worth anything. Oh, okay.
And I think, you know, what Trolls and Dolls does is really confronts that, right? Because I think a lot of American people, specifically women, believe that men respect them and truly love them for who they are. But I think a lot of it is that same kind of mentality. So did you see this guy, this American guy, trying to date a Moroccan woman? It's been like a little clip from here. Okay. So he was on a television series called Match Me Abroad, which I didn't even know existed. His name is Mark Scafidi. He is 44 years old, hailing from Phoenix, Arizona. And so for those of you who haven't seen the clip, he's talking to a matchmaker named Nina, and she lives in Morocco, but she lived in New Jersey for a long time, so she understands, you know, American culture. So she says, normally in an Arab household, the man is typically the provider, and most Arab women expect that. And Mark says, that's something I wasn't prepared for. Most American people expect that women provide half. I was not expecting to be the sole provider for the household. I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted a trad wife who was going to take care of everything and also give me half her money.
And also, go to work. And that's the thing is, like, there's plenty of women who are ready to make the exchange. You pay for everything. I will stay home and make cookies. But that's not on the table.
No.
She's like, oh, I'm supposed to be subservient to you, submissive to you, take care of the kids, take care of the house, and also I have to go to work. Like, that's not what she signed up for.
Exactly.
I don't think it's what any of us really signed up for.
No. And again, like looking back at history, you know, do you know when the first mail order brides existed?
I'm going to guess post World War II.
Incorrect. It was actually Jamestown, Virginia, 1617. There was an immediate influx of women needed to save the floundering colony. So the leaders, so basically Virginia Co. provided a dowry to women of clothing, linens, and other furnishings, free transportation to the colony, and even a plot of land. They were also promised their pick of wealthy husbands and provided with food and shelter while they made their decision. So it was a very different.
As soon as America, even though there wasn't mail, there were still brides.
The women, they had exactly. The women who responded to this marital request and agreed to marry unknown men in an unfamiliar land were America's first mail-order brides. I found out about this in the article, The History of the Mail-Order Bride by Marcia Zug. It's a different vibe. I mean, I feel like that was much more. I mean, it's the same idea. Like, obviously, women of money did not partake in this situation, but I think it was more empowering than so I watched this documentary in preparation of this called Love Me, Mail Order Brides. And there's a website that I learned about called AFA. It's called A Foreign Affair. And it's for American men trying to date mostly Ukrainian and Russian women. What you'll notice, they have these little dances and parties, and there'll be maybe 20 dudes and 200 women.
And we know from the book Date-onomics that when you have an imbalanced boy-girl ratio, the women will act as much as they can in hypersexualized ways. That's where you get, girls making out with other girls in nightclubs and tiny skirts and giant heels. No shade to any of this, but that is the natural occurrence when women are competing for male attention.
Right. And every woman there was 22 and beautiful. And, I hate to break it to you, none of these men were either of those things.
Wow. I'm surprised by that. Touching back on Hugh Hefner's self-delusion, I find that men have, when it comes to kind of exchange relationships, men have an almost bottomless capacity for self-delusion. So
right.
I used to travel to Thailand quite a bit for work, Bangkok. So Bangkok is known as a sex tourist place.
Right.
And you see women and boys who are in that industry. And my boss had been an expat there. She had lived in Thailand for 3 years. And she said, every man who came to visit her, boyfriend, family member, male friend, wound up having sex with a Thai lady.
Right.
And she was like, and it's so funny because it's they say things they're like, yeah, it was so crazy. I was just walking down the street and this woman comes up to me and she starts talking to me and we went out to dinner. And she's like, yeah. And then did you go back to your hotel and had sex? He's like, yeah, we had sex. And she didn't ask me for money because the exchange rate is so different that any American who lands, it's like meeting Hugh Hefner to them. And I don't know if this is still the case, but that's what drives sex tourism is that your regular wages go a lot further. So the women will hook up with a traveling man, a tourist man, for however long he's there, and he'll take her for dinner and he'll buy her some stuff. And a big part of it is the women get these jewels.
Yeah.
They take it, they're like, oh, I'm going to take you to my favorite jewelry store, Teehee. And I remember there was one lady I was talking to who owned this jewelry shop. And she said, I sell a lot of jeweled elephant rings. And it's not a shut up ring. It's not a wedding ring. It's got a ruby in it. It's got an emerald in it. It's pretty. And so the girls get them. And then when the guy leaves, they come right back and sell them. So it's these same rings are in the local sex economy.
Right.
Over and over again. But
that's, they barter instead of saying, hey, sir, for me to be your girlfriend for a week, I require $10,000. Instead, you say, buy me jewelry. You love me.
Yeah, take me out. And men are willing to make that exchange. But because no one is showing them a menu, they're like, oh, well, she's not a prostitute. She just really dug me.
Right. She thought it was special.
Yeah.
Katie, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Juglin, Jgln, Juglin. Anyway, she's a TikTok creator, and she says they fetishize, hypersexualize, and stereotype women from developing countries and essentially leverage global economic inequality for their own personal gain. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah. I'm very suspicious to this day of any man who has gone to Thailand
ever,
especially if he's traveling alone. I'm like, oh, he's a sex tourist. He's going to go take advantage of the local economy. Yes. And it's very weird on the subject of ladyboys. It is technically, it is illegal to be a homosexual in Thailand. It's not protected, but we turn a blind eye to ladyboys because they are part of this huge sex industry.
Right.
Like, well, having sex for money with a tourist, that's not like being gay.
That's not
just
the
like
same as being gay. You're just trying to make money.
TikToker Bella Poarch, her father was a U.S. military guy who retired in the Philippines and basically like married a Filipina lady.
Yeah.
And was, abusive and a giant a-hole. Like he didn't think of that woman as his equal. And like he didn't think of the kids he had with her as good as his other kids at home.
Right.
Like, it was a very abusive relationship because she wasn't worth as much.
Really interesting on this subject. Sunny Wowen wrote a really interesting article called White Sexual Imperialism, a Theory of Asian Feminist Jurisprudence. So what she said was the underlying cause of sexual racial inequality between white men and non-white women is white sexual imperialism. This principle holds that the history of Western political, military, and economic domination of developing nations has compelled women of these nations into sexual submission by white men.
And when you are from any poorer country,
right,
you're going to have an imbalance with white men.
Yes.
And white men are going to be like a possibility for you to change your life and have more opportunities. Now, many mail order brides get over here and they're like, oh, well, America is also deeply f***ed up. And that's true.
Right.
But, you're f***ed up and you can have a McDonald's hamburger. Good for you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching, and I was trying to find, when I watched this Love Me Mail Order Bride documentary, I was actually trying to find a documentary that I watched several years ago, but there was a Vietnamese woman, and she had met her husband through some sort of mail order situation. And she had never been to America. She really didn't know anything about it. He didn't know anything about Vietnam, coincidentally, but yeah, why would he? So she shows up here and he is a pig farmer and is requiring her to run a pig farm in like Milwaukee or something. And they just watch her out there and she just looks like she's dying. She was like, this is not what I thought America was like. This is not how I pictured this. Because you're giving up your entire family, your community, your culture,
your support system.
Yeah, everything you have to be a pig farmer in Idaho or something. Have you ever been a mail order bride?
Not yet, but I think as I head into my 50s, I probably will be.
This will be you think like this might be the time.
This will be the time that I'm really going to like reel in the big money guys.
That cracks and tracks.
Returning to men's expectations of women from other countries. Like when men are saying, oh, this is more of a trad wife, I'm more attracted to this kind of like, more of a domestic, more of a like what they're saying is the tides are turning for us.
Right.
American women expect too much of us.
Right.
And we would rather not step up.
Instead of stepping up and improving ourselves, we're going to find women who have less ability to take care of themselves and require, and are willing to put up with our bullshit in exchange for money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like going back to that trad wife idea, there was a really gross quote that I read from a GQ article from the 90s. The title is Oriental Girl.
Oh, good.
Just starting there, we're starting off with a bang. This man says, when you get home from another hard day on the planet, she comes into existence, removes your clothes, bathes you, and walks naked on your back to relax you. She's fun, you see, and so uncomplicated. She doesn't go to assertiveness training classes, insist on being treated like a person. Those are his fucking words. Fret about career moves, wield her orgasm as a non-negotiable demand. She's there when you need shore leave from those angry feminist seas. She's a handy victim of love or a symbol of third world nations, a real trooper. This person said that and thought that was good. What do you think about that?
I think that sounds dreamy. I mean, but these guys, like guys who are ordering mail order brides today, what they really are is the market for sex robots in the future, right?
Right, exactly.
Like, because that's what they want. I mean, if you can teach a sex robot how to cook a dinner, they'll be set.
Well, this was something that I saw in a Reddit post. Somebody said, passport bros letting the trash take itself out.
Right. But I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about just sex robots, not about mail order brides at all.
Okay.
And he was like, well, like, if you had a sex robot, like, that's just like, if you could be married and have a sex robot. And I'm like, you don't think that would be
a problem?
Like infidelity? Yeah. He's like, well, it's a tool, And I'm like, if you a toaster, I'm still going to be mad. Like,
yeah, I'm not going to love that. But
I'm not going to love it.
I think the idea so it's all coming together. I think I have a lot of problems with passport bros, but I think one of the biggest ones is that they're saying that this woman, because she is financially impoverished and doesn't speak a lot of English, she will just smile and nod and be a non-person,
Well, and she might. But how interesting that will last one generation, because her kids that she has with you are not going to put up with that same bullshit. And also how interesting, like some of, that could happen that way. But some of these guys, I think, do get murdered by someone who's young and has strong hands.
And access to guns in this great country of ours.
In this great country of ours. Yeah. There's only one opportunity per generation to have a subservient woman. And as more countries become wealthier, I don't think America is the wealthiest country anymore.
No.
We're going to have less and less of
to offer
of this opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. There was, so in the film, Love Me, Mail Order Bride, this man said, it's like dating a girl from the 50s. And another man said, even though she speaks very little English and I speak no Russian, there were, quote, instant sparks.
Right. Because again, if it doesn't matter what your wife is thinking or feeling, you don't have to hear her. You don't
have to communicate with her. There were sparks. Do you understand how sparks work? This is true love.
Trivia fact. Lorena Bobbitt, who famously cut her husband's off and threw it out a window.
Yes.
She was not a mail order bride, but she was an Ecuadorian immigrant.
National, yeah.
So he did take advantage of this imbalance to have a partner that he could sexually assault and beat for years and years.
The abuse. Right. So you were talking about the next generation on Trolls and Dolls. There was a gentleman on, I don't remember what season, but he had married a very young Asian woman. I think she, at the time of their marriage, I think he was 30 and she was like 18 or something like that. So, and he had children with her. Those children grew up and eventually she grew tired of him and divorced him. And so on this episode of Trolls and Dolls, he was actually now dating. He went to the same village where his wife had been from, found another 18-year-old girl and was trying to make it happen. And his own daughter was the same age as this girl. And the daughter was like, this is so gross, Dad. Like, you're disgusting. But he was kind of, he's like, this is how I met your mother. This is
the same thing. I'm just going back to the store.
The 18-year-old women's store. Yeah, of course, at this point, he was like 70. Right. And it was even grosser.
The painter, everybody's favorite painter, Paul Gauguin, did something similar. So he was married to a woman from Brittany, and he left his family and children and went to Tahiti and said, I really think the painting is going to be good for me at Tahiti.
Yeah. It's the painting that I'm there for. Mm-hmm.
Right. So a syphilitic man, married a teenage bride.
That was an air quote for those who can't see it.
Right. Married. It wasn't really a ceremony. It's like, well, you take her a bride, like you say, hey, you're going to be my bride. You're 13. It's great. And impregnated her, gave her syphilis, left, came back, took another Tahitian bride.
Yep.
Didn't talk to the first wife anymore. But again, when women aren't worth anything as individuals, they are exchangeable. They are, like you said, just vessels, as that you can, fill up with children or whatever you want.
Fill up with objects. You can fill them with gummy bears, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And so that's the big picture for me. What is offensive to me about marrying into any kind of power differential.
Yeah.
Big age difference, big economic difference, big cultural difference, big social difference.
Right.
Like the fantasy, like the Cinderella fantasy of this poor girl marrying this prince, that is an opening for abuse because she doesn't have any control. She doesn't have independence. She doesn't have any power. Like, that's the thing that is worrisome. It's not that it's distasteful. It's that it sets the woman up for suffering.
Right.
And crime. The other amazing point I was going to make, I was talking to a friend of mine who will, all good reasons, remain anonymous. And she goes to an organization where they are also anonymous. And
is it because of a history of substance abuse, maybe?
It's something like that. But sure, she has a crush on a person for program. And I start singing to her 13th step, because that's what they call it when you start dating somebody in the program.
Right.
And you're really discouraged from doing it.
Heavily frowned upon.
Heavily frowned upon. And I was thinking about it, like in this case, the power differential works in her favor.
Right.
She's been around the block with this program. She knows what's going on. You know, he might kind of admire her and look up to her. And like any situation where it's like this huge imbalance opens you up for bad stuff.
Well, that's why as a therapist, I'm not allowed to date my clients, because and there's this rule that like after 5 years have passed, then you can socialize. But I don't even think that's right, because I was introduced to you with the express understanding that I am here to guide you and help you and act as a role model for you on some level, right? And so we're never going to be equals, even if it's been 5 years. It doesn't, the dynamic is too clear.
Right. And like also the dynamic where you are there for him to tell his secrets and concerns to, like that's also...
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that.
We don't need that.
We already done that.
This is, big picture, this is what I worry about when women are denigrated for their weight or their appearance or anytime when a woman feels that she is worth less, there is a pressure for her to put up with bad behavior, with abusive behavior.
Exactly. And of course, I should have looked up the statistic, but I remember once reading that in this kind of dynamic with passport brides, the actual numbers of abuse are way more high than in the general population.
Again, no support system. It is
no shade on the men, but like the kind of man who's looking for a woman who's going to wait on them hand and foot. And, these guys in this documentary kept and moaning about how much everything cost. I'm like, sir, that is literally the reason you're here.
That's why this is open to you. It is human trafficking.
Yes, it is.
That's what it is. Two small thoughts. So when I was talking to my anonymous friend about her anonymous organization, I was reminded by something that I've been challenged with in comedy, which is a younger, a newer woman comic will come on the scene. And especially in small scenes like Portland, everybody will try to date her immediately.
Right.
While she has not been sullied by any of her friends. And I just want to put a t-shirt on every new woman comic and say put the date of her first open mic and say, I started comedy on this date. Please don't try to me for 1 year.
Yeah. Let me get some ground underneath me.
Exactly. Because there are guys who their only offering is that they have a little more experience in comedy than she does.
And that is sus.
It's extremely sus. And I knew guys who, in my tiny scene, there was a guy who had dated a girl. He's a very well-known comedian right now. I will not mention his name. He dated a girl for 6 months, something. They broke up. And then he complained to me that she was still, quote, hanging around.
Right.
And I'm like, well, she wants to do comedy.
Right.
She's not just someone for you to having a
fill with gummy bears and then toss
aside. She has her own. I find it interesting that the anonymous organization and I still had I had my same rule of 1 year. I personally do not recommend dating women comics dating male comics ever.
Right.
Because the odds that your careers will proceed at the exact same rate, the exact same time, and enable you to never be in a crummy situation where there's so many couples in LA that I meet that they've been together 20 years and they've had kids and all this stuff. And people tell me oh, she was really funny when they met and she was a comedian. She was really funny. Well, then she just kind of stayed home and raised the kids. So
she really wasn't allowed to work on her bits or try or, get stage time. You don't get a lot of stage time when you're covered in baby vomit. Surprisingly.
Because that's the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is let the man proceed in this industry that is going to favor him and let the woman stay home. But anyway, any power differential relationship.
It's a trap, I think. I mean, not always, but I think most of the time, whether it's male to female, when one person has significantly more resources or, access or social standing than the other, it's good.
One time I was in Pasadena, close to Los Angeles, California, and I was with a guy I didn't know, and there was a march against sex trafficking and against, I think, particularly child sex trafficking. And he said to me, he was like, well, I don't get it. Who's pro child sex trafficking? And I said, oh, men who visit prostitutes. You don't know how old these people are. You don't know in what circumstances they came to be here. You don't know who's taking their money. Unless we're in a situation like, you really don't know. And he was, Laura, very surprised to hear that was my opinion.
Yeah. A lot of men are very surprised to hear that we have differing opinions than theirs. For example, I was listening to the podcast Chocolate Chip and Sip, and Stormy P, the host, said, you're going over there to find someone to treat you like a king in all of your mediocrity. She would be a model over here. Do you think if she was born in America that she would be with him? And the guy said, no, probably not. She would not be with him. And she said, do you know why women do this? Because they're poor. Y'all are taking advantage of these women and blaming us for it.
It is in many ways just another colonialization, right?
Yes.
Like I have the advantage of coming from this country and having a little bit of money, and I'm going to lord it over you.
And I'm going to blame cishet American women for my problems and for my choices.
Right. Because
it's your fault because you were not nice enough to me. So now I have had to go and ruin some poor woman's life.
Yeah, because none of these guys have been winners in dating in the States, or they would have married an American woman who demands to be treated with some level of equality. I mean, I think that's when we really dig into it. That's my resistance to the Trolls and Dolls show that you love. Like, and you've told me a little bit about it.
I like to watch the car wreck.
Right. You told me a little bit about it and the absurdity of like a man who has never had a neck complaining that his
a man whose lips appear to be made completely of worms.
Complaining that his partner is not shaving her underarms. Like, it's absurd. But I think that's my core resistance is the knowledge that these women are being trafficked and
they're being exploited. They're being
exploited, and there's too many possibilities of abuse that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. And I also feel like, to me, the reason it makes me mad is ultimately that it's what it says about the way that American men think about women. That is the part that really hurts my feelings. Like, yeah, I had a client in the past who told me he met this great girl while he was traveling abroad. And I said, oh, did you meet her in Thailand? And he was like, how did you know?
I'm psychic, I guess. I can read minds.
How did I know?
How did I know?
There's just so many things that are bad about it. There's so many possibilities for exploitation of women, and it just hurts my feelings about the world we live in. So what are your final thoughts?
I mean, obviously I agree with you, but it's kind of like we're in this moment where men are asking, why aren't American women willing to sacrifice every single thing that they have for me?
Right.
And why aren't they happy with the life that my mother had, my grandmother had? And they're facing up to the reality that their mother and grandmother were not happy.
They were not happy. They were just settling because they had no choice.
And that is hurtful. That is hurtful stuff. This is what they mean when they say keep women in the kitchen. They want to keep us open to exploitation.
That's what MAGA is all about,
Yeah.
Let's go back to the time when nobody had any rights and I could just exploit everything and everyone for everything they had and make my life easy.
So we look forward to your letters about the nice lady that you met in Thailand. Laura, where can people reach out to us if they have a topic or a question or anything else?
They can visit our website to start with, mysistersthetherapist.com, and they can email us at hello@mysistersthetherapist.com.
And then where can people find you on the internet, Laura?
People want to get on the interwebs and discover me. You can find me at lauraryan.org, or you can find me on TikTok. I am Laura Ryan. Hey, Virginia, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, thank you for asking. My website is badinia.com, BADINIA.com. My TikTok is also Badinia. So is my Instagram. There's a theme. Like me, follow me, buy merchandise from me. It'll be great. I want to thank you guys for listening to us. We would kind of like to hear what you think. If you want to drop us a line about, oh, these are all the really great things about being sex trafficked.
Yeah, if you have a counter argument about how great it is to be a mail order bride, let us know.
Let us know.
Let us know.
In the meantime, thanks so much. Please subscribe.
Keep on rocking in the free world while it's free.
And please review and rate our podcast wherever you listen to it. Thank you very much.
Have a great one.